Today on the Young Pioneer podcast, we journey from the hand-painted movie poster workshops of Ghana to the remote South Pacific island of Pitcairn. First, Morgan Bourven speaks with Robert Kofi of Deadly Prey Gallery about Ghana's legendary painted film posters before we head to Pitcairn for my interview with residents Tarika and Charlene about life on one of the world's most isolated communities. All this and more on this episode of the Young Pioneer podcast. Welcome back to the Young Pioneer podcast. I'm your host, Justin Martell, and today we have a really unique double feature episode that takes us from the hand-painted movie poster workshops of Ghana to one of the most isolated inhabited islands on Earth, Pitcairn Island. First, Morgan Bourven speaks with Robert Kofi of Deadly Prey Gallery about the history of Ghana's legendary hand-painted movie posters, the bootleg VHS era that created them, and how these wildly imaginative artworks evolved into one of the most celebrated forms of outsider art in the world. Then we follow the Bounty mutineers deep into the South Pacific for my conversation with Tarika and Charlene from Pitcairn Island, where we discuss life on the island today, the realities of living on one of the world's most remote communities, and what it's like carrying on the legacy of one of history's most infamous maritime mutinies. So without further ado, let's begin with Morgan Bourven's interview with Robert Kofi of the Deadly Prey Gallery.
Hi, this is Morgan from YPT. I'm here in Accra, Ghana, at the Deadly Prey Gallery. I'm with Robert Kofi, the owner of the gallery, which aims to preserve all Ghanaian movie posters. They were painted from the 70s to the early 2000s by local artists who quite often hadn't seen the movies and ended up with posters very unlike what you may remember. Robert, can you tell us how this tradition started?
All the cities in Ghana were having the cinemas, but the villages, because there was no electricity, they were not enjoying the excitement and the euphoria that the cinemas were bringing. So around the late 70s to the early 80s, of course, they didn't have enough money to also build huge buildings. So they decided to purchase a television set and then a VHS cassette, a generator set, and then toured the villages. So when they get to the villages, they rented spaces like palace halls, like drinking spots, like the social centers. Yeah, they will rent the space for about a month, a week, depending on how long they want to settle, and then show the movies over there. So they were going around from village to village with their pickup truck, and then the generator, the projector. Some of them had projectors, others also was a television set. And then they go around and then they show the movies. So I think they show the movies about 4 or 5 times during the weekend, and then 2 times during the weekdays. So times like 6:30 was very, very popular, and then 8:30 was also very popular. And then in the weekends, 10:30 a.m. because of the students, 10:30 a.m. they have 12:30, and they have about 3:30, and then it goes to 6:30, up to 8:30, up to 10 p.m. and upwards, and they were showing it. This was a very big business, and it was also a very source of entertainment to the locals in the villages. Some of the places they went, the chiefs were actually buying into the idea. So they were not even renting the space to them at all.
Just giving the space for free.
Yes, they just give them the space because they were also bringing electricity too, because they had generator sets. Just imagine someone that hasn't seen light before, someone that hasn't, So it draws a lot of people to the center to come and watch the movies. Now, whilst touring the space, they realized that the movies came with original posters, which was paper and very small. Some of them too were not so attractive. So they realized that why don't we... So most of the posters were just very, they were not telling, there was no actions on them. They were like, no, why don't we commission our local artists to watch the movies and then paint the movies anyhow they want. That is where.
That explains it.
Yeah, that is where.
I don't think I've watched all the movies.
That is where the imaginations, added their own imaginations to at least be able to draw the people to come and watch the movies. So you watch these posters. You see this one. There was no way there was a mouse coming out of someone's mouth in the Halloween.
Yeah, I was looking at him. And
Yes, there was no way. You will not find that one anywhere. And if you watch Leprechaun, there was nothing like the stars and the blood and the stuff. They're not there. So the local artists sit down, watch the movies, do their sketches, add more imaginations. Some movies, you see the main characters very huge, very bulky and all that. Now, sometimes the guys goes to watch the movie and they don't see what they saw on the poster in the movies. So they tend to question the operators of the cinema that what? So like, what? We didn't see these actions in the movies. So where are they? Is it that you took it out of the movie and you took our money? Or where is the action? Like, it became so, rampant, and the operators realized that no, if we don't take care, they will beat us. Actually, I have witnessed beatings before. I've witnessed insults, vulgar languages, and all that. So it got to a time when it's about 20 minutes to closing, you will not find any bed of an operator at the scene, because they've actually lied to the people and they've come to watch the movie. Now, these same people will go out there and come back again and come and watch another movie. So they had no choice. So around the late 90s, I think around the 99, the 2000s, television stations became widespread. And then a lot of people also became more, enlightened, bought their own television sets. And then every TV station that came, they entertained them with movies. So foreign movies, mostly the American movies, the Chinese, Hong Kong movies and all that. So the business of the movie, the mobile cinema actually came down, and it has dropped from then till now. But the painting of the movie posters didn't drop. That didn't drop. That didn't fade out. The artists are still existing and they are still painting. And that is what has brought all of you here.
So they're still painting for cinemas now, or only for collectors?
Currently, we paint for like a souvenir for. Yeah, so I actually brought that idea that since the artists are not actively painting for the cinemas, they're no more in business. So why don't we reach out to, turn the face of the whole business and then do commissions to people that love their own movies and want their own images featured in the posters, why don't we do that? And we did that, we launched it and it really worked and it's still working.
And that was Morgan Bourven speaking with Robert Kofi of Deadly Prey Gallery about the fascinating world of Ghana's hand-painted movie posters. Now we're shifting gears, and we're going from West Africa to the South Pacific Ocean for a conversation with two residents of Pitcairn Island, Torika and Charlene. Descended from the Bounty mutineers and their Polynesian companions, Pitcairn's tiny population lives more than 500 kilometers from the nearest airport, making it one of the most isolated, inhabited islands on Earth. I had the privilege to visit there this January. So in this interview, we'll discuss daily life on Pitcairn, the island's complicated history and reputation, and what it's like welcoming visitors to such a remote place and how the community sees its future moving forward.
I'm sitting here with Torika, who's currently serving as the head of tourism here on Pitcairn, and I'm also sitting with Charlene, Torika's mom, who is also serving as deputy mayor here at Pitcairn. So let's just hop right into it because we've got a limited amount of time because we're actually sitting here with a view. Can we see the, yep, we can see the silver supporter sitting there in the Pacific waiting for us because we're about to take off on the longboat and begin the voyage back to Mangariva, French Polynesia, and make our way home. So for listeners who have never heard of Pitcairn before, how do you usually explain where you live and what makes it unique? Who wants to take the question?
Well, in simple, how we explain it is that we live halfway between Panama and New Zealand. So that's basically where we are, is right in the halfway between each.
And what makes it unique?
Well, we're a unique community. We live all the way out here, and we're the home of the Bounty mutineers.
So can you tell us a little bit about each of your respective backgrounds and how you personally fit into life here on Pitcairn. I'll start with you, Charlene.
Well, I was born and bred on Pitcairn, and my forefathers, Fletcher Christian, he led the mutiny on the Bounty. And so, yeah, I've lived here all my life. Of course, I've been away for visits and various things, but this is my home.
And okay, and you're currently serving as deputy mayor, but you've also served as mayor. But everyone has like 6 jobs, right? So can you just rattle off all of your functions and responsibilities here on the island?
Well, yeah, so I've served a term as the mayor back in 2000 and for 3 years. And that was taking the community through COVID when COVID hit. It was an experience, but it was a challenge as well. We're a small community. So of course, you can't make everybody happy, but you do your best to serve the community as best you can. I've been deputy mayor for a couple of terms now, and it's just supporting the community, supporting the Island Council, the mayor in his positions. So, yeah. And then I also am chief biosecurity officer, so I check all the passengers arriving and make sure that they're compliant with our biosecurity arrival information. And then I'm also one of the heads of the natural resources, working with various colleagues overseas and trying to make Pitcairn a better place in our natural resources sector. And then I also am the postmaster. Just getting all that. I've been working in the post office for over 30 years now. And then when our postmaster retired, then I applied for the position and I'm now the postmaster. What else am I? Oh, the marine permits officer, and that's dealing with all the different permits that we have to offer with our MPA. And I'm a part of the longboat crew,
and tour guide and accommodation host as well.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty full plate. And how about you, Tarika?
I'm not quite as out there as Mom, but in all of her different epaulets and roles. But I am a councillor for the Pitcairn Islands Council, and I am the external group manager. So I oversee 3 departments: the tourism department, the borders department, which is our longboat team, biosecurity team, and immigration team, and then the natural resources department. So I oversee those 3 and the officers underneath them.
And so you both mentioned biosecurity and also natural resources. So real fast, what are some biosecurity measures that Pitcairn needs to keep in mind?
Definitely the most important thing is declare. Declare if you want to bring something. The ideal thing is don't bring anything, but we don't want to go down that path.
You don't want to be as restrictive as Australia or New Zealand.
Of course not. I mean, we want to be careful. We don't want bugs and stuff like that, any more invasives coming in. But we live here. This is our home. And if someone wants to bring in a fruit tree, then just ask and declare it, and we'll check it out to make sure it's not rose apple or anything like that, where it's going to, in 3 years' time, take over the island. And so it's just a bit common sense. Yeah.
And how about natural resources?
Natural resources, that deals a lot with the MPA. And so it's just working with various external partners in the UK or various places.
And MPA is?
The Marine Protected Area.
Okay. And so just for people who don't know, the Marine Protected Area, and what does that stipulate exactly?
So that was established in 2016, and it put in a stop to commercial fishing within our waters, and just allowed us to protect the marine life in a way that we cannot do if we weren't established as a marine protected area.
Got it. All right. And Tarika, so for you as head of tourism, what is something about Pitcairn that surprises first-time visitors almost immediately?
So one thing we do hear a lot of is the amount of people that we do have at the landing and how everybody's always waving and welcoming everyone as they come in, and that our community is very friendly. One thing that is always done when we see tourists walking around and everything is if they would like a ride, everybody knows whose guest is staying with which homestay and everything. And so if normally when we see tourists out and about walking and it's hot and sunny, we'll offer them if they would like a lift back to their accommodation or to wherever they're going and things like that. So that is feedback we have received, that the island is quite friendly. Another thing would be that we're small, but at the same time very big. A lot of people think when they come here that, wow, it's such a small island, 4 days, what am I going to do in those 4 days? And it's not till they actually get here. One thing we always hear is that 4 days is never enough. Going back to the Silver Supporter, we do ask, like, oh, did you guys have a great time? Like, did you do what you wanted to do? And we do have a lot of people that say that 4 days they thought would have been ample to do everything that they wanted to do on a small island. But once they actually got here, it wasn't enough for them to actually stop and enjoy everything that we have to offer. And so, yeah, we're small, but we're big.
Exactly. There's history, nature, science, and you get to know the community as well, which is great. So going to the island's history, Pitcairn is inseparable from the story of the HMS Bounty. From an islander's perspective, how is that history understood and passed down today? What does the Bounty mean to you as a resident and your family history?
So the Bounty and its history is something that's always been a great draw to getting tourists to come to the island. But I think once tourists actually get here and experience the island and the people and the lifestyle here, that they soon realize there's a lot more to Pitcairn than just our history. There's the present today and there's the future for tomorrow.
Absolutely. And you have a very unique holiday on the island, and that's Bounty Day, the day that commemorates the burning of the Bounty. So can you tell us about Bounty Day?
Yes, so Bounty Day is a day that it's to celebrate the day the Bounty mutineers basically decided to make Pitcairn Island their home. And it's a unique day to us because it's what started our journey for everyone here on the island, and that Pitcairn is now our home. It's also a day of community. We don't have very many community celebrations, but the ones that we do, it is very full community, and that's something that you don't find anywhere else in the world, really. There's not many places you can turn up to and there's the whole community eating together and putting together a bounty model or fishing or cooking together and eating together and celebrating, swimming, and then afterwards all sit down and watch the bounty burn and reflect on that's how we got here today.
So you burn the bounty in effigy, or how big is the bounty that you burn?
So a model is made. It's not the size of the actual bounty. It would be about 2 meters by 2 meters or 3 meters by 2 meters, something like that. And we have the little bounty chocolate name stuck on it. And everyone gets a bounty bar.
Perfect. And if you want to see and experience Bounty Day, you can sign up for YPT's next tour to Pitcairn in January 2027, which coincides with the January 23rd Bounty Day celebrations. So, with everyone on the island wearing so many hats, walk us through a normal day on Pitcairn. What does daily life actually look like when you're not tending to tourists? Or I guess when you are, it's going to be all of this in addition to looking after tourists. But what does a daily life look like?
Very busy. With so many roles, you really have to have good time management. It's not, although we have many roles within the government, there's also our private lives that are very time consuming as well. We have gardens, we have family, we have cruise ships, we have souvenir making, and we have other like private enterprise, things like that. That's not only what we're doing. So a day for us is very busy, full on. It's a mixture of emails and meetings and physical work. So it really makes us appreciate the days we get off.
All right. With no airport and limited shipping, what are the biggest logistical challenges of living on Pitcairn?
I mean, we are remote, but we're not isolated. We've got Starlink, we've got communication, we've got a lot of natural food. We've got our ship Silver Supporter that brings us our supplies every 3 months. And then we've got our longboat. That is our lifeline, our longboat. That's our only way on and off the island. And then we get to a Silver Supporter where that takes us further.
And the longboat is key because the mutineers chose this island because it was not exactly easy to land on. So can you talk about Bounty Bay and how the longboat works?
The longboat is crewed very skillfully by its coxswains, well, by its crew, but it's definitely by its coxswains and engineers that operate the boat. Of course, you have our bowmen. You have to be able to read the waves. Well, yeah, you grow up on it. It's you. It's that feeling it's a part of you. And it's a feeling that you can't lose. And so you just through the growing up, you learn how to read the waves, how to enter the harbor.
Perfect. And you touched on food, and there's a ton of food right here. People can go fishing. And then I was really surprised to find just driving around the island. So we were looking, there's coffee growing. There are coffee plantations. There are mandarins, passion fruit, bananas. What else? Oranges.
We have a lot of food on Pitcairn. Nobody can go hungry. Of course, we have our own plantations, our own orchards, but the bananas, they grow while everybody can harvest them how many bunches they want. And you have a few people that are very avid gardenists, that they like to garden and plant all sorts of produce. We have really fertile soil. We're really lucky for that we can basically plant anything here. Just use a little bit of energy and get out there. You can do it. Our waters, they're full of fish. Just take what you need. Yeah.
And electricity is mostly...
It's mostly solar. Most of the houses have solar, but we also have diesel fuel as well.
Okay, and talking about Pitcairn's economy and industries, so historically, stamps have played a significant role in Pitcairn's economy, but I understand that's not really the case anymore.
No, we have tourists coming because of tourism, and with Starlink making us more accessible to the outside world and having the Silver Supporter, it's made Pitcairn more accessible to tourists actually coming to the island and experiencing the island. So that would be one of the biggest incomes for Pitcairn, or one of the key sources of incomes for Pitcairn today on a steady basis.
And then you have tourists that are able to come and visit the island via the Silver Supporter, and then you have some cruise ships as well, small and large, some of which are able to have their guests land and come ashore. Others are not. Some you go out to the cruise ships and sell some products that have gained a reputation like honey and coffee. So why is that kind of small scale and high quality production so important?
So that is so important because it is during our cruise ship season that is the highest source of income for the community. The honey, the coffee, the curio souvenirs, everything that's made on the island and taken on board allows everyone the opportunity to take a piece of Pitcairn home with them to their families, to their friends. So that's always been one of the biggest highlights for us and for tourists. So we have tourists that are able to come to the island on big cruise ships. Unfortunately, with the bigger cruise ships, you're unable to land really due to the size and Pitcairn's ability to be able to cope with so many people on the island. The smaller expedition ships, they have been very successful with getting their tourists ashore and their guests on board ashore. They also have the better resources to be able to get their passengers off the ships and on the island using Zodiacs. And their staff is well equipped and trained in remote places and dealing with passengers. So, yeah.
But of course, the best way to experience the breadth of what Pitcairn has to offer would be to sign up for a tour and stay for a couple days and see it for yourself beyond just stopping and saying hello and purchasing some souvenirs. So what would success look like for Pitcairn tourism over the next 5 to 10 years? Where would you like to see it go?
The first step is to try and get more
Younger tourists visiting the island.
or just more berths filled on the ship. Yeah.
Have a full ship, but also have like different interests and motivations for wanting to visit the island. Like it's always great to have people wanting to come and see it and experience it for 4 days, but we also want to have people come and experience and think, hey, I actually want to give this a go and live here and be a part of the community and see what I can do to contribute. But like, not only like they want to contribute, but like being here is what they want as a better life for them. We've got to want people here that want to be here for what Pitcairn is, not for what they hope it will be.
So ultimately, you would like to see tourism also translate into some new members of the community and an increase in population? You'd like to see some people say, hey, this is pretty great. I could live out here.
Absolutely. We want people that can come in and help us to build our community back up, and which that's important. It's like help work with the community instead of having the what little community that we have working for them. That's what we need.
Very well said. And I know that we're winding down now because we've got to get back to the Silver Supporter. So my question to each of you is, what is something about being from Pitcairn that you're the most proud of?
This is my home. I don't know it anywhere else. Of course, I've been to New Zealand. Probably the longest I've lived in New Zealand is like 9 months. But that's not me. That's for the New Zealand community, the citizens. This is my home. My home, my community.
And how about you, Tarika?
For me, Pitcairn, well, for me, it's not only home, but it's the lifestyle. It's the principles that it instills in you. It's the life lessons that it teaches you. And honestly, I don't think by having experienced time overseas and doing my later years of schooling in New Zealand, it really made me appreciate the island life that we live. It raises, I'm not saying it doesn't raise in the outside world, but here, like looking at my siblings and I, we were very independent from a young age, and we had like values and everything instilled in us from a very young age, and we grew up to be very independent people. And it's like you could learn anything and everything. Like we can do anything that needs to be done or things like that around the house. Have our own boats.
It's just you can live a free life. You know everybody. You're basically related to everybody. And it's just like you walk out of your door and you just leave it open.
Yeah, it's a very free life. And we want to share it with all of you. We want to share it with everybody, and we want everyone to come and steal a bit of paradise. Yeah. We want everyone to experience, even if it's just for 4 days, that bit of freedom where you could leave your phone laying there on the table and come back and it'd still be there. Like, you could drop your wallet on the road and you know someone's going to pick it up and look for whoever's it is. Like, you can leave your door open at night and not have to worry about somebody robbing you.
If someone is on the fence about making the journey here, what would you say to them?
I mean, like, if they've thought about it, they want to do it. And if you don't do it, you're going to regret it.
Yeah. Look for
Because-
Pitcairn on YouTube. Watch all those YouTube videos out there.
Like,
That'll-
yeah,
that'll help you make up your mind.
Yeah, you'll
Yeah.
want to see it because it's honestly a once in a lifetime experience, and we're an island like no other in the South Pacific, and you want to experience that before you can't. But that's your job, Justin. Go and get some people for the 2027 trip. We'll let you pack your bags and get back home.
I'm on it, boss.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Young Pioneer Podcast. A big thank you to Morgan Bourven and Robert Kofi of the Deadly Prey Gallery, and of course to Torika and Charlene from Pitcairn Island for joining us. And if you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to the podcast and follow Young Pioneer Tours online for updates on upcoming tours, podcasts, and various projects throughout the world. Until next time, I'm Justin Martell, and this has been another episode of the Young Pioneer Podcast.